All right, let's talk about it. That one thing that drives so many of us crazy: stubborn belly fat. In this breakdown, we're going to decode the science behind it with a super clear 3-layer roadmap. We'll get into why it's so tough to lose, and most importantly, how you can actually win the battle. Let's dive in. I mean, this is the question, right? It feels like it's the first thing to show up after a holiday and the very last thing to leave, no matter how hard you work. You're eating clean, you're hitting the gym, but that fat around your middle just hangs on for dear life. It feels unfair. Well, turns out there's a very real scientific reason for this, and just understanding it is the first step to beating it. To bring this all to life, we're going to follow the story of a guy named Nimesh. He's 35, and like a lot of us, he felt like he was just genetically stuck with belly fat. His journey is the perfect real-world example of how this 3-layer approach works. And this number right here, this was Namesh's starting belly fat percentage. It was the highest on his entire body. So no, he wasn't just imagining things. The data proved his belly was his biggest challenge. That's the mountain he was about to climb. Okay, so let's get into the mystery. Why does your body cling to fat in this way? And I'll tell you right now, it's not about having bad genes or not having enough willpower. Your body is actually following a very logical, even if it's frustrating, system. But before we get into the why, we need to understand what we're even measuring. And that's where this tool comes in, the DEXA scan. Just think of it as a super accurate, high-tech body map. It doesn't just give you one vague body fat number. No. It tells you exactly how much fat you have in your arms, your legs, and, the one we care about, your belly. This is how we get the cold, hard fact. Now check this out. This is data from almost 18,000 people, and it shows that for men, once your total body fat gets above that 25% mark, your body kind of flips a switch. Your belly becomes a priority storage locker. See, from an evolutionary standpoint, this was your emergency energy reserve. But for us today, it just means your body starts sending any extra fat straight there first. And this leads to something I call the visual lag effect. When you start losing fat, your body pulls it from everywhere else first. Your face, your arms, your legs, those are the easy access spots. Your belly is the last place it wants to take from. And that's exactly why the number on the scale can be going down, but when you look in the mirror, it feels like nothing is changing. So that visual lag brings us right to layer 1 of this journey, the first 90 days. This phase is all about tackling that soft outer layer of fat. But because of the visual lag, the biggest challenge here isn't physical, it's psychological. It's all about finding a way to stay motivated when you don't immediately see the results you're hoping for. So for this first layer, Namesh's plan was brilliantly simple. No crazy extremes. He just focused on 5 foundational habits. 3 workouts a week to build some muscle, making sure his meals were built around protein, hitting 8,000 steps a day, weighing himself daily, not to judge, but just to collect data. And then there was that 5th bonus habit, his secret weapon. We'll get to that in a sec. And this is where it gets so real. After a full month of putting in the work, Namesh looked in the mirror and just felt totally defeated. He was so close to quitting because, in his mind, absolutely nothing had changed with his stomach. I'm sure we've all been there. But here's the reality check. While his perception was no change, the actual data told a completely different story. He was already down 7 pounds of fat, and his waist was 3 centimeters smaller. The progress was absolutely happening. It just wasn't obvious to him yet because of that visual lag we talked about. And that is why that bonus habit, taking progress photos, is an absolute game changer. Photos let you see the small changes happening elsewhere, like in your shoulders or your chest. They give you the visual proof your brain needs to override that voice of doubt and keep you pushing forward. So, after about 90 days, Namesh conquered layer 1. He was seeing his upper abs for the first time. But that victory led him straight into the next challenge, layer 2, the plateau. This is that frustrating point where your body adapts, your metabolism gets a little lazy, and your progress just stops. This means your old strategy isn't enough anymore. It's time to level up. What worked for layer 1 just won't cut it for layer 2. For Namesh, this meant bumping his daily steps up to 10,000. He added a 4th workout to his week, and he shifted from just mindful eating to mandatory calorie tracking to make sure he was still in that deficit. So, the big takeaway for layer 2 is this. A plateau is not failure. It's just feedback. It's your body telling you, hey, I've adapted to what you're doing. So now it's your turn to adapt your strategy by getting a little more active and a lot more precise with your nutrition. And that brings us to the final boss, layer 3, This is the truly, truly stubborn fat, the stuff that less than 1% of people ever really manage to get rid of. At this stage, your body is actively fighting back against you, and the game changes from simple habits to really advanced biological management. So the tactics have to get way smarter. First, you start prioritizing foods with high satiety, things that keep you feeling full on fewer calories, like potatoes. Second, you have to manage your stress hormone, cortisol, which can mess with your progress by taking strategic, planned diet breaks. And finally, you have to outsmart the intense hunger signals your body is screaming at you to protect its last bit of fat stores. So, after navigating all three of those layers, what did the final result actually look like? Let's take a look at Namish's complete 275-day transformation. The whole journey kicked off at over 34% belly fat. By day 90, he had cleared layer 1. Around that 6-month mark, he finally punched through the layer 2 plateau. And at day 275, he hit his goal. This wasn't some quick fix. It was a patient, strategic marathon. So first, the big picture. He dropped his overall body fat by an incredible 12.8 percentage points. He went from nearly 30% all the way down to under 17%. Amazing. But look at this. This is the one we've been waiting for. The reduction in his belly fat was even more dramatic. A massive drop of 21.4 percentage points. He went from 34.4% down to just 13%, proving that even the most stubborn fat will give up if you have the right strategy. And honestly, this might be the most impressive part. He didn't just lose fat. Over the same period, he gained nearly 7 pounds of lean muscle. This is the holy grail, what we call body recomposition, losing fat and building muscle at the exact same time. So, if you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. Losing stubborn belly fat isn't a single battle. It's a campaign fought in layers, and each layer demands a different strategy, a little more precision, and maybe most importantly, the psychological strength to trust the process, even when you can't see it in the mirror yet. You now have the map. The journey is yours to take. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to start. So looking back at those simple, foundational layer 1 habits, what's your first step going to be?